Hi, Molly. This was a message that was left on my phone this past Saturday, which would have been August 10th. Just thought you might like to hear it.
Yes, hi. I'm just calling to make a comment / slight complaint about the upcoming Women's Haka workshop. I'm just more kind of disgusted as a woman to see the faces of those women in the ad in the Caledonian Record. And instead of putting forth potency and power, the women in the picture look like one's going to stab somebody with her sword, and the other one looks like she's doing a voodoo doll or something. It's just, they look evil and psychotic, and it doesn't really promote positive femininity in women instead of power and potency. And I don't think in these times that we should be promoting more of that. We should be promoting positive things. So just wanted to pass that forward. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Episode 15, Breaking the Rules That Need to Be Broken. Okay, so here's where I deviate from many and where I claim the title of Social X, or Y, I guess, for that matter. And the reason why is because I tend to not, I get uncomfortable when people fall into ruts, especially those that are unhealthy. And what I mean by that is, and it might not all be, it might be a product of upbringing and experience and stuff that is not necessarily positive. All I can say is this is the content. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, but this is my life as a social experiment. So I'm going to talk about my life. And so I was in a family that was very strict with tradition, and everything is done just like it was back when the kids were young, and we do the same thing every year. We follow the same traditions, and there's no veering away from that. And it was so nearly toxic that, the only way to what I had to do was give up any identity that I had. And honestly, I didn't have much. My family kind of fell apart. And so diving into this family meant that I took on the customs and traditions of theirs, and that was fine. And I loved it. Actually, I honored it until I noticed the cracks, the year to year events that followed in complaining and belittling the people that were there. And I started to get real weary of, hosting a yearly annual event for the sake of doing so, because that's what you do. And then just ripping it apart after everyone left. And it really worked on my heart and my soul. And call me a snowflake, which they would. That's just the way you talk about your family, right? You insult them behind their back. That's normal. But to me, it wasn't. I thought that was a crock of shit, and I walked away from it. I've walked away from several friends who operate like that as well. That's not normal. And so that was a rule that needed to be broken. Tradition, if it's harmful to another group of people, is worth walking away from. So, social X, meaning, I'm not outside of the social realm, but I do see through it. And I operate from that vantage point. And I don't know where I got it, but I got it. And just recently having a conversation with a friend, he used the word genius, and not that word doesn't really apply there. I think it's like something like, trying to think of a proper word for being very unnaturally attuned to something that is outside of the senses of most others. And I do have that ability. And it served me well. And it's also, no, it served me well. The things that it has destroyed were out of necessity. And I feel I'm much lighter and better for it. So it serves me well. I'll just leave it there. For many years, I was made to feel bad and on the outside of the norm because I didn't believe in traditional Christmas any longer. And the traditional Christmas requires loads of money and, an overwhelming amount of gifts for the children when they wake up in the morning so they feel special. And I was living with someone who liked to spend tons of money on Christmas gifts and to recreate their own childhood. And I didn't see the point in it because, it just put us in such a tough position come January, February, March. I mean, you don't really get out of that debt. I mean, it just kind of builds on itself. And so I would complain. I'm like, this year, I want it to be different. This year, I don't want to buy a whole bunch of stuff. This year, I want to, save money and maybe go like a more natural route. Let's say, I use the word pagan, but that's a really big word for just, ignoring it's not even religious anymore. I mean, the Christmas that we celebrate now, there's nothing Christian about it, and it's all these secular people who are buying into a cultural, the word that one of my favorite concepts is mock instinct. And I did not make that up, but mock instinct is when culture has ingrained in you this feeling that, you act on instinctively nearly. And so I feel that way with Christmas time. There's, just and this obviously doesn't apply to everybody, just people who celebrate Christmas, but it's the majority here in the U.S. that buy into this Christmas capitalism that I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with politics for me. It just has everything to do with not valuing people, not valuing human beings as special all year long, and that buying people's stuff and having items, that doesn't show how much you care or love, but that's what we teach year after year because our mock instinct tells us that if we don't fulfill a tradition, then we are turning our back on our history and turning our back on our grandparents, and we continue this. And we just keep doing it until, some of us go insane. I started to go insane. I couldn't stand it anymore. Mostly because we were running out of money every year. And it was very stressful. It was really stressful. I think the last year that we celebrated Christmas fully together, there was $1,400 spent. And we didn't even have that. So the credit card was used. And we went deeper into debt as the home was being foreclosed on. And I thought it was just insane. It was absolute insanity to be using resources that didn't exist. But, I'm the crazy one, whatever. Anyway. So the opening clip that I played had nothing to do with Christmas. Had nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but it has everything to do with the statement that I made about breaking the rules that need to be broken. And I think the person who called and left that message, I'm guessing it was a knee-jerk reaction to the visual. And when I heard it, I was speechless for a few moments. But then I thought to myself, how many things have I come across in my life that have, visually shocked or scared me. And then the knee-jerk reaction comes, and you can stop there and you can have that knee-jerk reaction. You can turn away. You can, have, or, like fear of the other, which is what racism is based in. And all the isms is fear of the other. That's what that stuff is rooted in. And, I think, well, I guess I don't. I guess I thought that we were beyond that. And we're not. And I need to remember. And this is why I do what I do in my daily life. And it's why I live the way I live. And I'm not on any soapbox or, in any like higher level trajectory and, trying to better the world. I'm just doing what I can in my little space. And so this phone message came into my little space, and my first reaction, of course, was being speechless. And then second was, why, first of all, the person didn't leave their name or number. So there was no opportunity for discussion. Whether that was on purpose or not, I don't know, but it had to have been a conscious omission not to state her name, at least. And if she didn't want to be called back, she shouldn't have to leave her number, but at least her name. So what the second thing that got me about that was the judgment right off the bat at what the women look like in the photo. And this photo was of the actual woman who would be teaching the workshop. They would be teaching authentic Haka from their culture. And so what they were portraying is exactly what the Haka looks like and has looked like for hundreds and hundreds of years among men and women of the Maori culture. And the lady on the phone message thought and stated that she did not think that that was appropriate femininity to show those angry faces and what'd she say? Evil, psychotic. One was going to stab the other and the other one was doing voodoo. Voodoo has nothing to do with New Zealand culture. It's a totally different country. And I mean, it would be easy to write this person off as completely off base, unintelligent. The message was completely unintelligent. But, I saw deeper into the reaction, that knee-jerk reaction, and we all do it. Whether we pick up the phone and make a phone call and leave a message, there's different levels of activation when you feel fear of the other. And her doing that was fantastic for me. I'm thrilled to have that message because it propels me forward in what I do. And so I've listened to it over and over. I've played it for others. And I've been waiting forever to do a podcast based on it. And I've waited a week now. And I don't know if my energy is still at that same level. But I couldn't wait any longer to speak on this. So in response, I posted on the social media feed that the band from New Zealand were coming on Sunday and they were teaching a Haka workshop. And I wrote in my post where I asked, it was a request. And I said, quote, "Open yourself to all connection. Conjure forth your spirit of inquiry." And so what I meant by that is, when you have those initial feelings of, I'm uncomfortable, in the face of something that